Good morning, everyone. Thanks for your attention. And good morning and welcome to the 2025 Electrical Safety Summit. I'm Belinda Watton. I'm an executive with the Energy Queensland Group, and I lead a business called Eureka. We work in the energy supplies, telco, metering, and energy and infrastructure areas. Firstly, I respectfully acknowledge the First Nations people in the state of Queensland. We acknowledge the cultural and spiritual connection that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have with the land and sea. We respectfully acknowledge people, Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people, as two unique and diverse peoples with their own rich and distinct cultures. A little bit of housekeeping for those in the room. If you are new to the day, there are bathrooms at the back of the room out past the bar on your left. It's great to see so many familiar faces. In the case of an emergency or fire, please follow instructions from the Victoria Park staff. For our online viewers today, welcome. If you have any technical problems during the live stream, please make sure, firstly, that the sound on your computer is on. Try refreshing your browser. If that doesn't work, contact us via the Q&A chat box on the right of your screen, or email the events team at events@oir.qld.gov.au. Can you believe it is the 9th Electrical Safety Summit, which is quite incredible. Thank you all for being here. Whether you're with us in the room or you're turning up online, it's absolutely fantastic to have you here today. Today's summit will focus on stakeholder and community engagement, compliance, and setting young workers up for success. I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Deb Frecklington, MP, Attorney General and Minister for Justice and Minister for Integrity, Keith McKenzie, Commissioner for Electrical Safety, Donna Heelan, Acting Deputy Director General, Office of Industrial Relations, Robert Wicks, Acting Executive Director, Electrical Safety Office, Electrical Safety Board and Committee and Licence members, and our guest speakers, Annalie Blundell, Donna Pickford and Scott Sinclair. And now, to kick us all off for this morning, I'd love to introduce Attorney General Deb Frecklington for the opening address for this year's Electrical Safety Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Victoria Park. What a great spot for a stadium. Or is it too soon for me to say that? I figured if the Deputy Premier was here today, he would probably make such a joke. But anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here on behalf of the Deputy Premier and the Minister for Industrial Relations. As you've just heard, of course, I'm the Attorney General, so slightly different, but we have a great deal of crossover, particularly when it comes to any form of safety. And I'm discovering that when they want something done, they give it to the busiest person in the room. So that's me. So there you go. So that's why I'm here today. So it's just wonderful to be here. The Deputy Premier sends his apologies. He unfortunately was unable to come and to greet you here today. So apologies, but you have me. I'm sure if you come back next year, he'll do it and he'll do a much better job. But to obviously, first of all, I do really just want to acknowledge all of the staff at the Office of Industrial Relations who have put together this incredible event this morning. And accumulating over 2 weeks, there will be events not only here, but of course live streamed across the state. And it's a wonderful way to engage each and every aspect and part of this very vital, important industry. Can I please acknowledge everyone that has been acknowledged, but of course the Commissioner for Electrical Safety, Keith McKenzie, and I know that he's quite keen to have a chat to me about copper theft, something that is very topical and something that is at top of mind across not only, all communities, but particularly like in my patch, having complaints from local sporting clubs, for example, with basically idiots flogging copper and putting themselves at risk. And that's where your industry steps in and does everything so well. So thank you for that. Of course, and to Donna Hill, it's great to see you here today. Belinda Watton, General Manager, thank you. And to each and every one of you that should be acknowledged, please consider yourself acknowledged. Queensland really is at a precipice when it comes to construction across this great state, and for that we need leaders in the industry, and that's exactly who we have in the room here today. We need leaders in the industry to bring up that next generation. So whether you are from one of the big GOCs, whether you're union, whether you're from the government, or whether you're from private enterprise, there is nothing more important to the government than safety, and of course to be here at the Electrical Safety Summit, that just leads directly into that. So you have this incredible opportunity over the next several years to really assist us in the construction boom that is and will be happening here in Queensland. And of course I'm talking about the not just the Olympic legacy projects, and right here I've already made the joke about the stadium, but there's so many other projects that will be coming on because of those Olympic legacy projects. But not only that, across the board and across government, we're seeing huge numbers of projects, whether they are government projects or private industry, working towards building Queensland. And that's exactly, like I say, where you come in. But we can't do it as a government without your help. We need you as leaders of the industry to continue to do what it is you do best, and that is to keep us all safe. But importantly, to train up the next gen as well. So those apprentices that are coming through, we need more of them. We also need industry to really lead into the fact that we need to encourage more people into the electrical industry. It is a vital industry and one that we obviously can't live without. As soon as the lights go off or they get home and their beer fridge is hot, it's a terrible day. So I mean that's, we take this issue of electrical safety as a government extremely seriously, but as a government we can't do it without you and without ensuring that everyone is doing the right thing. So I just really do wanted to take that time to thank you for what it is you're doing. Thank you for coming to the start of a 2-week conference or 2 weeks of electrical safety weeks. Most other industries only have one. So Donna, that shows how important yours is. You do it over 2 weeks, but thank you for that. Also appreciate for any of you that have contacts in and around regional Queensland and outside of the southeast, please contact them, get them involved and encourage them to find the contacts within your industry and within government, because we are a government not just for southeast Queensland but for all of Queensland. And I'm, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a regional member of Parliament. I've been a regional member of Parliament the entire time I've been in government, and it is very important to our government that we actually govern for all of Queensland. And when we talk about the safety of Queenslanders, that is actually usually starts in rural and regional Queensland. So it is important that we do notice and acknowledge that as well. I really just am here to greet you and say thank you and do the welcome. I'm not one of your experts or keynote speakers. I'm not here, unfortunately, to make a big announcement either. The deputy didn't leave me with anything in the kit to do that. But I very much appreciate, again, just wanted to say thank you. Enjoy your day today. You've got some amazing speakers that will be speaking to you, and I'm quite sure there'll be an incredible couple of weeks. So thank you very much for having me.
Many thanks, Attorney General. It's wonderful to have you here this morning. It's now my pleasure, as we talk about leaders of the industry, to introduce Keith McKenzie, Commissioner for Electrical Safety. Keith started his electrical career in 1986. After gaining his electrical fitter and mechanics licence, he worked for several companies on domestic, commercial, hospital, petrochemical and industrial projects. Keith has served on a wide range of boards and committees in the area of apprentice training, construction, training competencies, workplace health and safety, and Australian standards, as has been a member of the Electrical Safety Board and Electrical Safety Licensing Committee since 2011. Prior to his role as Commissioner, Keith was the President of the Queensland and Northern Territory Electrical Trades Union branches. Welcome, Keith.
Morning everyone, and thanks for making the effort to get up early. Well, most people will be up early in our industry, so but for those who haven't, thanks for making the effort. Welcome, Minister, and appreciate you being able to come in here represent the Deputy Premier. And thanks to for all the effort everyone's gone into this for the Department of OIR, including the Electrical Safety Office and the Strategic Communications team. This summit here is obviously started, I think it's back in 2016, and I just want to acknowledge the actually two previous commissioners that are here today, Greg Skyring and Jack Camp. So over their time in the industry, they still keen to come along to these events and pretty passionate about our trade, and that's why I guess you guys are here today. So just a couple of updates and here we go. So with the Electrical Safety Board and committees, and we acknowledge those members here today, is that one of the values of our Electrical Safety Board and committees is about trusted leaders in the industry, strong leaders and collaborators, innovative change and transition facilitators, and proactive and responsive. That's the values of our boards and committees. Do you guys have them same values here today? Yes, Keith, hopefully that's the answer. Because I hope you do, because that's the board and the committees do come from industry, and we believe that is what our values are. It should be the same as your values, and you also might have others. Part of our boards, when we undertake our activities, one of our strategies is about driving safety. Leadership practices improve safety culture at all levels of industry and workplaces, and collaboration of stakeholders to understand issues and risks. And that's one of the reasons why the summit was developed. Electrical Safety Week occurred, and it's that popular now. It's into Electrical Safety Fortnight, because there's so much to do in our industry. Some of the stuff and undertaking tasks that the board and the committees are doing and about to commence, we've obviously got electrical safety education. So we do that with our Electrical Safety Committee and Education Committee. We're looking at electrical safety podcasts, so when workers and that drive to work, they'll either listen to Triple M or ABC. Well, more people and the younger people listen to the podcasts on the way to work. So how can we actually tap in to that about industry, about safety, our trade, and how good our electrical industry is? Electrical Safety Town Initiative, so we mentioned that last year. Hewiden's been picked, and we're going to hopefully be in that town in end of May or June next year. And the board and the committee members went out there to have a look at it about 4 weeks ago, and the town are really keen to actually adopt that. And Electrical Safety Town will obviously get some systems in place to understand what is electrical safety, whether it be the home, the workplace, and education of that. So that'll be awesome when we kick off. And that's an initiative. We're not rolling it out across every town in Queensland that wants to do it, but we can take our learnings from that and pass it on to all the other regional councils so they actually can develop and provide education awareness what electrical safety looks like. So Hewiden was the pick. We're working on the first responders guide, so the police, fire and ambulances, they turn up to events, but in some of the regional parts of Queensland, the first responder could be the local school teacher or the butcher or generally the tow truck operator. So when they see a car involved in an event at a power line that's hit a power pole, and obviously we want them to stay, call and wait, what do they need to do as a first responder to ensure they make the scene safe and provide advice there until actually medical emergency services help? Working with an isolation upstream campaign through the Electrical Licensing Committee. We want people to turn off at the main switch and don't work on or near energised equipment unless there's a fairly significant reason that you need to do that. And we're also working with Energy Queensland of a couple of initiatives they can do to assist to promote that working safely upstream. We're also working with a whole range of things like the First Nations schools and retirement homes, getting information to those organisations about, for body corporate areas, where people are actually charging their electric scooters and bikes. Schools, they come up with the Education Committee, and the Electrical Safety Office wrote, or Rob Wicks from the ED wrote to all the school principals saying, if you've got kids turning up with e-ridables, whether bikes or scooters, it's not like back in the day they just parked out in a bit of an old fence in the yard. They're probably going to be parked under cover well, don't start having these scooters and bikes stored under the prep area, because if a fire does occur... So just providing this common sense advice that we would know, because it's our industry we're working with it each and every day to these different organisations. And obviously we saw that last year, that Don't DIY, Don't Do It Yourself campaign initiative, and we want to hopefully start doing some more work with that, rolling that out as we go along, because far and few too many people are buying, 2 metres of cable and a power point and a junction box, and I'll give you the tip, they're not taking it home for the electrical worker to go and install it. So we've got to work out strategies. It's okay to buy it, but you can't install it, so we need to do that and educate more people about that. And obviously working with the Electrical Safety Office on how we develop these different strategies, and also with the Strategic Communication team who are awesome doing it too. So some statistics about the Electrical Licensing Committee. So the function of the committee, and you might read it from day to day in the e-safe, it's not necessarily about doing disciplinary matters, and I'll get to that shortly, but it's also to provide advice to the board and the minister about if we need to make any changes to our training and what we're seeing in the industry. But what we're seeing as a community, there's far too many workers and apprentices receiving electric shocks. Your first shock could be the last shock, and the likes of Dale Kennedy and Tim Martin, they only had one shock and they're not here today. And unfortunately, when I go and talk to tradespeople and apprentices and say, put your hand up if you had an electric shock, quite a few hands might go up. I said, if you had one in the last 2 years, less hands are going up, but there's still too many people receiving electric shock and it's not acceptable. We're finding apprentices are failing to test or don't know how to test at all, and they're receiving shocks or they're not locking out. And by doing that, it's not the fault of the apprentice, it's the fault of the supervising tradesperson. So we've got to make some changes there, and that's all comes out to ineffective supervision. And on Wednesday, we used to have an apprentice event where we used to go to a TAFE, an RTO. We used to get apprentices and tradespeople to bring their apprentices along there. So this time we've done something different. We've asked some organisations. We've got Electro Group along with MEA doing a gig. We've got QBill doing a gig. We've got NECA apprentices, and we've got EQL. And potentially by all them doing it with ESO doing a presentation there as well, we should cover between 800 and 900 apprentices all on the Wednesday. So rather than them coming to us, we're going to go to them, which would be awesome, getting that education out there. So they're the initiatives we're starting to look at. Righto. Here's some statistics. They're not too flash, but as you know, 27% of statistics are made up. But these are fact. So from the 2024 period, there was 24 people referred to the licensing committee relating to a person receiving electric shock, and out of the 24, 5 involved apprentices or young workers, which is 24%. And in 2025, we haven't finished yet. We've still got a few more meetings to go, but 8 people were referred, and this is taken a month ago, so 8 people were referred to the ELC. Out of them, 5 apprentices are young, so that's 62%. When an apprentice received a shock, and you know what, it wasn't their fault because they don't get paid to work, they get paid to learn, and ensure that they come home at the end of the day as a result of the supervising tradesperson. So that's not good statistics. And a whole range of reasons, and there's all these excuses, but ultimately those 5 electric shocks could be 5 fatalities. So we've got to do more as an industry, and we're looking at that through Jetco and TAFE doing some training as well. So in 2024, we had 12 relating to competency issues, 6 related to supervision and 21 related to incorrect testing, generally. And in 2025, we've got 4 related to supervision, 4 competency related, and 5 related to incorrect testing. People still don't know how to test effectively. Here's some statistics. So on the left-hand side, it's a bit small, but this one here, that's pretty high. So that's relating to energised equipment. So we start to keep track of when people come to us, what are the reasons they've been referred to us by the licensing committee from the Electrical Safety Office, and it was energised equipment. And the next one's concerning apprentice and young people, so that's still high. So while tradespeople are down, which is good, apprentices are receiving the shocks. So we've got to do, there's more work to be done in industry about that. As far as educating the community, everyone might have been to this website, electricalsafety.qld.gov.au. It's a pretty cool website. In fact, it's got a lot of information on there, and we just got to keep promoting it. So on there's information about, are you safe at home? Are you safe outside the home? And if you don't want to buy Christmas presents this year, at least you could do is send an email to your friends and families, check out this website, because there might be something you can actually take away and learn about electrical safety. As the Minister said, people just come home and expect the lights to be turned on, and you open the beer fridge and it's cold beer. But when the lights don't come on in the fridge and you've got no power, everyone panics. So it's about being safe. It's when people go to buy electrical equipment and do their own work because it'll be easy. It's about educating we don't do that, because you might not have in-home insurance, you might liven up the earth system, and your son or daughter might come home, grab the tap, and they might be their last and their first shock that they have. So we've got to educate the community more. All information's on this site. We've just got to keep people to it. There's obviously people in this room. I'll get you to put your hand up. If you're part of a community organisation with some sort of leadership role, you might be the quartermaster, you might be a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and the PNC. Put your hand up if you've got some sort of role. Right. Happy days. What can you do in your community group if about electrical safety? Or if you're part of the soccer club or the netball club or the polo club, what influence have you got there to say, hey, by the way, who checks your safety switches every 3 months? Or do we even have safety switches? If requirements of people to bring items in that organisation, do they ensure that they might have a tag on it? What can we do and influence the industry, because we're leaders, to go to our community groups? Are our community groups electrically safe, or no one cares? So I put that challenge out to you to have a think about that. And some of the activities we're engaging with First Nations of communities. We've done quite a few activities last year with the Yarrabah community. Went to the Magpie Cup and talked to young people there about electrical safety. We want to do regional communities, multicultural communities. People who don't speak English is not their first language, so how we can provide information to them about electrical safety. Children and teenagers, so the Wiggles campaign's out there and it's going quite well, but how do we actually engage with the teenagers who still charge their laptops on their bed, and they might be buying equipment because it's cheap on Temu or whatever, and that doesn't meet our requirements in Queensland and Australia. People in retirement villages, so when people, with their electric scooters, where they get in charge, how can we inform the retirement villages of places and safety of that? Community organisations, and we're always educating workers, which is good. Some take-home messages. Everyone's got the right to return home safely from work. There's generally no second chance when it comes to electrical incidents. Electricity can kill, so we all get it. The next slide I want to show you, and this is I hope it's the next slide. It's a video. It was done in Victoria in 2011, and I like it, and I reckon it sends a message. So the Electrical Safety Office do these great technical videos, and I encourage you to watch them when we do the videos, like the Dale Kennedy story and I Love You Dad and Tim's story. But this is a message why I think you guys are here today. And I say this because you give a shit about your industry, you care about people, whether it be yourself and the community. But have a look about this video, and where's Dad?
I didn't hear you leave. I wonder how am I still here? And I won't go, I won't sleep. I can't breathe until you're resting here with me. And I won't move, and I can't hide. I cannot be until you're resting here with me. And I won't go, I won't sleep. And I
The most important reason for making your workplace safe is not at work at all.
So that video is about 2011, part of their Coming Home series. But that's why we want to get that message out to you guys who get it. Some of you guys will obviously be looking after tradespeople and apprentices. Some people might look after for family at home. But there's a reason why we want to come home every day. And I like that even the teenage kids, well, they weren't too keen, but at least their dog was keen to see him come home. Everyone has a reason to come home, which is great. And that's really the message, I guess, why you're here today. It's why we've got 300 people online watching this today, and thanks for tuning in. But it's about taking something home from this summit, and you'll certainly hear from our other guest presenters today, and hopefully this will make a difference in your business, in your workplace, and it might be one thing will get you to change, which is what we want to see today. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Keith. I think there's some incredibly powerful messages there. As MC, I love it when we sneak in these videos, which make me tear up in the corner, and then I've got to pull myself together to get back on stage. But it's that critical reminder of what do we go home for, and the leaders in this room and the work that's being undertaken by so many different people to ensure that our workers and communities are safe. And it's incredible work. We still see those incidents occurring, and there's clearly more we can do. And in the topic of clearly more we can do, it's my pleasure to introduce Robert Wicks from the Electrical Safety Office. Robert is the Acting Executive Director of the Electrical Safety Office, overseeing the strategic delivery of electrical safety across Queensland. And today, Robert is going to provide an update from the Electrical Safety Office. Welcome, Robert.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us as we kick off what is a very important 2 weeks here through Electrical Safety Fortnight. My name is Robert Wicks. I'm the Executive Director for the Electrical Safety Office. For those of you who are less familiar with the work of the ESO, we're the regulator for Queensland responsible for administering the Electrical Safety Act. And our purpose is to eliminate the human cost of electricity, that is the deaths, the injuries and the destruction of property that electricity can cause. We do that through a broad range of means. We have licensing and authorisations frameworks. We have robust equipment regulation. We have education and advice, and we monitor compliance and enforce requirements with the legislation. We work closely with our partners at the Electrical Safety Board and the committees, and I welcome all of them who are here today. We also work in close alignment with our colleagues in Workplace Health and Safety Queensland. And we collaborate closely with industry, with the industry groups, to ensure electrical safety across Queensland. And I thank you all who are here today and joining us online for your efforts in supporting us to do so. As you all know, the risk of death, injury and destruction of property caused by electricity is ever present. And Electrical Safety Fortnight is about shining a spotlight on those risks and reinforcing the importance of safe practices, not just for the fortnight, but each and every day. This morning, I'll talk you through some of the ESO's recent activity, share what the data tells us about serious electrical incidents, and talk about our priorities as a regulator looking ahead. The reason I'm doing this is because behind each and every one of these statistics is a person, is a member of a family, and a part of our community, and that's what drives the work that we do. So our recently published annual report provides a wide range of activity and data from the regulator over the 24-25 financial year. During the year, the Electrical Safety Office conducted more than 1,200 reactive assessments. So these are complaints and notifications that come through to the regulator that, while important, don't meet the threshold of notification obligations under the Act. Through our compliance program, we conducted over 2,100 audits across high priority areas. And where non-compliance was identified, inspectors took action to ensure the safety of others. They issued over 1,600 notices, most commonly for breaches of the wiring rules, unlicensed electrical work, and failures to properly manage electrical risk. 6 prosecution matters were finalised before the courts over the year, resulting in over $250,000 in penalties being handed down. And 55 referrals to the licensing committee were made. Some of you might be doing the math saying that's a different number than the one Keith just had. Keith spoke about the electric shocks. There are other reasons that the regulator would refer a person to the licensing committee, and that might be because the inspectors attending found installation work that was so defective we had to immediately disconnect it, just as an example. And we certainly prioritise and take action on matters that relate to apprentices. On the licensing front, we launched a new online licensing platform late last year. Some of you in the room are probably already familiar with it. It was developed and implemented to make life easier for industry to apply for, manage and renew their licences online. Applications for licences continue to grow, so we're seeing an increasing trend each year. Over 5,600 work licences were issued over the last 12 months. 1,500 odd contractor licences were also issued. And since 2019, we've been seeing an increasing year-on-year end. Now we're talking about nearly 65,000 work licence holders and around 13,500 contractors calling Queensland home. We've maintained a strong focus on electrical equipment safety through regular testing and audits, supporting recalls and assisting with fire examinations where electrical equipment is suspected at fault. We've contributed to the development of new online certification and registration database for electrical equipment sold to household consumers. That platform launched in November, and since going live, we've seen strong engagement with over 3,700 responsible suppliers onboarded and over 18,000 items of electrical equipment registered for sale in our marketplaces. These are all great snapshots, of work that is done to prevent harm and address non-compliance. But next I'll discuss some of the data that we're seeing in serious electrical incidents. These are notifiable incidents. These are cases where a person has died or been injured and required treatment of a doctor following receiving electric shock. These are the incidents that have the biggest impact on people and represent the highest risks that we need to focus our attention on. So what we're looking at here is a number of serious electrical incidents, or SEIs, reported over a period of time. So over the past 5 years, the trend has been relatively steady. In total, we've seen about 108 incidents reported. Tragically, 20 of those were fatal. Most of the deaths involve people coming into contact with electricity while they were performing work, but about 35% of them were people in their own home or going about their lives in the community. Sadly, we continue to see incidents arising from people attempting to do their own electrical work. The highest overall contributing factor to SEIs was as a result of coming into contact with overhead lines. And also, notably, last year we saw 3 separate incidents occurring where people were performing work in their own roof spaces or in the workplace in a ceiling space. When we break incidents down further, 34 of those incidents involved a licensed electrical worker and 8 involved apprentices. And the SEIs linked to apprentice activity were for tasks like removing redundant cables or replacing fluorescent tubes or replacing a control panel on air conditioning units, things of that kind. All of them can be traced back to ineffective supervision. Across all industries, a majority of SEIs occurred in construction and then the electrical supply, manufacturing and transport sectors. To really understand these incidents, we also give regard to the types of equipment that were involved, and as we can see, overhead power lines, fixed wiring and switchboards continue to dominate. These aren't new issues. I'm sure you're all familiar. I'm sure you've all recognised these types of things in the day-to-day work that you do. But given that they continue to appear, it reinforces the importance of getting back to the basics of our safety fundamentals. So we look at this data, and given we've got a handful of minutes, I haven't gone into all of the reports that the ESO received, but we take this data and we use it to inform our priorities as a regulator for the next year and the years beyond. And so I'll touch on what that looks like for us from here. Our key priorities, we have 3 key strategies that we're in the process of developing and implementing. These include an overhead and underground line strategy. We'll be working with industry bodies, the entities, and across a number of different stakeholder groups to develop a strategy to reduce the incidences of contact with overhead lines in particular. We'll be working closely to address the issues around working on and near energised electrical equipment, and we'll be strengthening our remote and regional engagement. Our compliance monitoring program will target high-risk areas including major projects, domestic construction, renewable energy sites and other high-risk environments. A key focus will be reinforcing the importance of safe practices and approaching risk assessments when on or near electrical equipment, when working on or near electrical equipment that's energised. And inspectors will be closely monitoring correct testing practices, ensuring the installation standards are being followed. Supervision of apprentices will remain a priority, making sure electrical workers are competent and they've been trained to perform the tasks they've been asked to perform. Other key areas of focus will be working in ceiling spaces, and we'll be continuing our strong emphasis on preventing unlicensed and DIY electrical work. Our message in that regard remains simple. Don't DIY, it only puts you, your loved ones and others at risk. We continue to engage in the development and maintenance of standards to keep pace with the ever-changing electrical equipment environment. Through administering the electrical equipment safety system, we'll be ensuring that check testing is performed and ensuring that household electrical equipment entering the market is safe for the community. We'll be delivering it through our remote and regional engagement strategy, targeted messaging to regional communities, whether that be for things like safety switch campaigns, overhead line safety, or educating around those emerging areas Keith spoke about, in particular lithium-ion batteries, e-mobility devices and battery energy storage systems, as we're seeing more and more of these enter our communities. In regards to legislation, the Office of Industrial Relation commenced the sunset review of the electrical safety regulations earlier in the year. Consultation with key stakeholders was commenced and we'll be engaging with them further before a remake of those regulations is finalised, likely to be late this year, early next. Also, the Office of Industrial Relations will soon be doing public consultation on the review of the Children and Young Workers Code of Practice, which is an approved code of practice under the Workplace Health and Safety Act, and they'll be reviewed to ensure that the proposed feedback for apprentices and young workers reflects their unique experience in the workplace. So we're certainly encouraging feedback from industry and apprentices and young workers to ensure that that code is fit for purpose. To find out more about consultation on those two things, you can subscribe to our eSafe, follow us on Facebook, or you can check out the webpage on worksafequeensland.gov.au. So to finish up, in these few minutes I've touched on some of the key insights that we draw from the types of incidents that the ESO respond to. While Electrical Safety Fortnight is an important commitment to recognising and prioritising safety across our industry and communities, it's crucial that we remember our safety fundamentals every single day, not just during these 2 weeks. I hope you enjoy this morning's events and have a chance to participate in some of the other activities that we have planned over the fortnight. You're sure to learn something new about electrical safety and connect with others in your industry. It's not too late to register or join one of our events. Simply follow us on Facebook, as I said, or jump on electricalsafety.qld.gov.au and click on Electrical Safety Fortnight to find out more. You'll also be able to find ESO staff engaging with community and other industry events across Queensland throughout the next couple of weeks. I'll hand back to Belinda now. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a safe, engaging and informative Electrical Safety Fortnight. Cheers.
Thanks, Robert. It's incredible to see the amount of work going on and those principles around people being competent, trained, supervised, and from the DIY perspective, how do we protect people from themselves? So thank you for that work and those continued initiatives. I'm fortunate to have 2 young people in my household, a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, and what a joy that is in this stage. But of all things, while they think they're bulletproof, I think there's this incredible fundamental piece around how do we keep young workers and young people safe. And I look forward to introducing Donna Pickford, who's the CEO of Electro Group. And Donna, as the CEO of Electro Group, leads the delivery and training of electrical, solar and telecommunications technologies. She's been instrumental in establishing the Renewable Energy Training Facility, supporting apprentices, licensed electricians and students to gain and upgrade their skills in renewable energy systems, helping to build a future-ready workforce for Queensland. Donna will be sharing those exact issues and experiences around how do we protect young workers and how do we set them up for success. Welcome, Donna.
Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to thank the Electrical Safety Office for inviting me to speak today. My name is Donna Pickford and I'm the CEO of Electro Group. At any one time, we employ over 300 electrical apprentices and we train over 700 apprentices throughout Queensland. We only deal with electro technology. As an industry, we know the facts. Apprentices are our future workforce, but they're also our most vulnerable. They are young, often in their first job and working in high-risk environments. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but electricity kills. If we don't get safety right from day one, we put lives at risk and we put the future strength of our industry at risk. So, who are we? Electro Group is owned by the industry for the industry. We are both a group training organisation and a registered training organisation. Our purpose is clear. We employ, support apprentices with safe placements, mentoring and HR support. But we also train them so that they become safe, skilled electricians. We sit at the centre. We bring together the apprentices, the employers and the industry. So protecting our young workers First of all, we need to look at onboarding and induction. So our induction is not just a tick and flick, it is quite comprehensive. Electro Group have a 7-day induction. We cover PPE, hazard reporting, fatigue management, drugs and alcohol, asbestos, silica awareness, safe isolation, electrical hazards. The apprentices watch Forever Young. They hear from mates in construction. They learn to work safely at heights, but most of all, they learn about supervision, supervision, supervision. If you're not supervised, stop. They are signed off at every stage to make sure they understand. And induction is not all about policies and procedures and ticks and flicks. Our induction is about ensuring we can get as much information and education into our apprentices before they go out into a dangerous occupation. Every apprentice must be aware of the risks involved in working with electricity when entering or working in the electrical industry. The danger is real. All electric shocks must be avoided. All shocks are potentially fatal. Minor shocks could have resulted in death or injury if circumstances were slightly different. Your first shock could be your last shock. Make electrical safety at work your number one priority. From day one, they are told you have the right to stop if you feel unsafe. Right, so mentoring and supervision. Training means nothing if our supervision fails. A few months ago, one of our first years suffered an electric shock while left unsupervised on a live circuit, and he ended up actually in hospital overnight. The supervisor was distracted, he took a phone call and he walked away. The apprentice should have stopped working, but he didn't. He was so eager that he moved the ladder and continued to work. That moment of distraction could have had devastating consequences. Everyone walked away this time, but what about next time? You can't see it, you can't smell it, but it is dangerous. This industry and this job are not for the ones that you can ever be complacent. From day one, supervisors, trainers, field officers and peers need to remember this and drill it into our apprentices every single day. You are working at heights, you are working with electricity. This is a profession not to be taken lightly. Training and safety culture. At college and every field visit, we embed safety into everything we do. Every unit we teach, every visit we have, every conversation is around safety. Doing the job right means doing it safely. We've seen apprentices speak up and stop unsafe work, and that's what a real safety culture does look like. So, for a group training organisation, compliance is not just paperwork, it's protection. Ensuring they've got the right PPE and uniforms, ensuring work sites we place our apprentices on are safe, ensuring the apprentices and supervisors are fully informed and know the supervision guidelines. Mentoring and college attendance, checking timesheets, only placing apprentices with hosts that meet our workplace health and safety standards, and stepping in on any HR or safety issues. But here's the challenge. You can implement any standard you want in any business or industry, but unless we can embed it into the culture of everyone in the industry and ensure people are listening and practicing it, we will not succeed as an industry. Supervision. So the safe working supervision guidelines for electrical apprentices is very, very clear. Every apprentice must be supervised at all times by a licensed electrical worker. Supervision must be appropriate to the task, the apprentice's experience and their level of knowledge and the risk which you are asking them to perform the task. In the first 6 months, an apprentice must not work on or anywhere near live parts. Test before you touch, lock out, tag out, and never trust somebody else to isolate. Now, this guide is not legislation in itself. It's a guidance document issued by the Electrical Safety Office, but it interprets and reinforces the duties that already exist under the Electrical Safety Act of 2002 and the Electrical Safety Regulations 2013. It sets out what the ESO considers to be the minimum expectation for supervising apprentices. Inspectors use it to measure whether a PCBU or supervisor is meeting their duty of care. So technically, the laws and regulations are binding. Why the guide itself reflects minimum standards needed to comply with the law. And that means these are not best practice. They're actually the bare minimum expectations set out in the supervision guidelines. And if we don't even meet these, then we're failing our apprentices. At Electro Group, we go further. We lead with culture, mentoring and real oversight. But if the wider industry doesn't even meet this minimum, then we are letting our workers down. Now, I'd just like to introduce Kenny Chu to the stage, and he's just going to run through some of the supervision guidelines. He's one of our field officers.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Kenny. I'm field officer over at Electro Group for the past 5 years, and I've recently moved into the safety officer role. Previously, I worked on the tools for about 10 years before completing my time. It's a bit intimidating, isn't it? With Electro Group. Today, I want to talk to you about some points. I think everybody has this on their tables. It is the Safe Working and Supervision Guide for Electrical Apprentices. As a field officer at Electro Group, I get asked from time to time about supervision of apprentices and how, when, why, and what level of supervision is appropriate. This guide covers the basic electrical safety practices that every electrical apprentice should follow. It is written for apprentices, their employer, and their supervisors. The aim is to assist apprentices in ensuring that they have sufficient basic knowledge of electrical safety and safe work practices prior to commencing an electrical apprenticeship. Apprentices must be supervised throughout their apprenticeship. This is a legal requirement for every stage. As a supervisor, you need to supervise your apprentices, install safety procedures, and establish a good safety standard from day one. As an apprentice, you need to ensure you take safety as priority and have open communication with your employer. Look, I'm sure it's scary as an apprentice to speak up about safety concerns, but if a company has open communication with their apprentices, it's a start to create that great safety culture that we should all strive for. I sometimes get asked, can I leave my fourth-year apprentice to supervise my first-year apprentice if they're just roughing in cables, installing cables? My answer, only licensed electrical workers can supervise electrical apprentices. When supervising apprentices, there are a few basic things you can do to help create a safer work environment. Before work, have the conversation with the apprentice and check the supervision on site. Ensure your apprentices understand how to do each task safely. Reiterate if you have any safety concerns to speak up. When working, always follow the safe work methods procedures and always test before you touch. And on the completion of work, ask your apprentices if there was any safety concerns during their shift, and if there was, communicate. Support your apprentice to create a safer work environment. When creating good safety culture within our apprentices, it starts from day one by educating the basic safety standards in our industry. Educate the apprentices by providing the correct PPE and explain why we have to wear them. Explain the safe work practices, and tell them they can speak up if they have any safety concerns at all. Yes, as an employer, we need to make sure our apprentices go to work. But more importantly, we need to make sure our apprentices come home safely. I want to read to you the supervision levels from this document and the actual definitions, as this is something I get asked all the time. There are 3 levels of supervision that are agreed industry standards: direct, general, and broad. First up, direct supervision is when a supervisor constantly monitors an apprentice. The supervisor should always remain readily available. So that's within earshot or eyeshot, okay? This level applies to where apprentices require constant guidance and monitoring by supervising electrical workers to ensure the work task is carried out safely and correctly. General supervision is when a supervisor is not constantly reviewing the apprentice but remains available in person for assistance or instruction as required. This does not include FaceTime or video conferencing. The supervising electrical worker must remain on the same work site as the apprentice and be readily available for guidance. And lastly, broad supervision. Broad supervision is where a supervisor only needs to make occasional face-to-face contact at intervals determined suitable by the supervisor. Adequate apprentice supervision cannot solely be provided from off-site locations via phone, radios, or webcams. I ask you all to read and share this document. It's basic and it can save lives. All right, that's enough from me, but I am going to leave you all with one question. If you are the employer of an apprentice, are you providing the appropriate supervision for your apprentice? Just one more. If you are the employer of an apprentice, are you providing the appropriate supervision for your apprentices on site? Thank you. I hand you back over to Donna.
Thank you, Kenny. So there we have it. We have both a legal duty and a moral duty. Apprentices deserve more than a start in the trade. They deserve a safe start. Supervision, mentoring and culture must sit at the heart of every workplace. Compliance is the floor. Leadership is about lifting standards above the bare minimum. If we invest in apprentices now, we'll secure the safe, skilled workforce Queensland needs for renewables, infrastructure and for the 2032 Olympics. At Electro Group, safety is the core of everything we do. I invite every one of you, employers, trainers, regulators and industry leaders, to step up, meet the guidelines and aim to build a safer future for our apprentices. Because in this profession, and by the way, it's actually a profession, it's not just a trade anymore. People think trades are just trades. It's actually a chosen profession for you. Complacency can kill. Every one of us has to ensure that we supervise our apprentices and they go home safely at the end of it every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna and Kenny, for those powerful messages. I love that reminder that doing the job right means doing it safely. Supervision and creating spaces where apprentices can speak up and feel safe to do so. Encouraging them to be able to do it and enabling them is two different things. And now we're going to hear from Scott Sinclair with regard to the compliance in an electrical enterprise. And Scott is the General Manager of Electrical Services of Fallon Solutions. Scott brings more than 4 decades of experience across the electrical industry. Beginning his apprenticeship in 1981, he has worked across commercial and industrial installations, high voltage transformer manufacturing and testing, solar PV design and installation, and large-scale government and defence projects. After nearly 2 decades in management with a growing contracting business, he joined Fallon Solutions in 2010, where he now serves as General Manager. Under his leadership, Fallon has delivered major projects to Brisbane City Council and Queensland Government, including flood recovery works, school upgrades, and large-scale sports lighting. Today, Fallon is an incredible $50 million business continuing to grow its domestic services arm while expanding into solar, PV and battery solutions. And Scott is here to talk to us about what compliance is in an electrical enterprise. Thanks, Scott.
Well, good morning, everyone. I've been to a few of these events, and it seems to be just getting bigger and better every time I come along. And Keith asked me to come and do a talk on compliance. In our business, we've got a very diverse business. It covers a lot of different areas. And I'm not an expert in electrical compliance, but we're all experts within our own businesses. And what I thought I'd talk about today is how we manage our compliance and a little bit of a history about Fallon Solutions. We've been going for a long time. So Neil Fallon, he started it in 1962. There's a picture there of Neil standing beside his HD panel van. Very proud moment for him early on. So Neil, he ran around there for a little while doing his own stuff. He apprenticed his son Matt, and then Matt was general manager of the business there as well before me. And he actually started Brisbane Antenna Services, which was a really big part of his business, and was involved in the rollout of the first lot of pay TV, Galaxy. Some of us older people in the room might remember that. It just reminded me when Belinda said 4 decades. It's like, it's gone so quick. And then in 2005, Neil was at retirement age, so he decided to sell the business. And the business was bought by Mark and Natalie Denning, who are still within the business now, and 2 other private investors. Now, and what Mark did is he's got a very smart business mind. He added the other services to our business. Plumbing in 2006. Today the plumbers are almost as big as the electrical part of the business that Neil started back in the day. And then in 2008 we added HVAC, which is still a very big part of our business, and it's an important part of our business as well with our service offering. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but we are a very domestic facing business, and we deliver to homes. It's 95% of what we do is to be the one-call trade professional and be able to basically fix everything around the home. So in 2010 is the important one when I started. So and I started the business as a project manager and then quickly moved on to be the general manager. And I've sat in that role now for 15 years. I'm also the QTP on the business, and we strive, like everyone does, to do the best we can with safety. A big game changer for us was in 2014. We decided to do upfront pricing. So what that basically is we give everyone a quote for what we do before we start the work. But the important part of it that I really liked is we do what we call a home safety inspection. Now, we look at everything within the home, but the respective trades look at what they do. So we look at everything. We look at the switchboard, we look at the earth stake, we look at the smoke alarms, we look at the downlights, and all we do then is we just give the customers some options to choose from. And I tell my guys, as a licensed electrician in someone's home, I think it's our duty to look at that stuff. We all get very task-focused on just doing that ceiling fan or just installing those downlights. But look at the big picture, give the customers some options. They may want to fix that sort of stuff up. And we hope that they do, because it's great for electrical safety. Helps me sleep at night after we've been there and we've done the inspection. So 2018, I sat through all the judging for Master Electrician of the Year, and we managed to win the whole of for Queensland, and then went back and competed against everyone else in the nation, and we won it for the Nationals. So a great accolade there, and Greg Scoring was on the judging at that point. And so now we've spent 5 years and about $5 million developing our own software. And the good thing about that is you can tailor it very closely to your own business. Now, we've got a very interactive risk assessment process. There's a lot of good software out there, and there's a lot of good programs out there, but because we do domestic and there's so many different things that the guys could come up against, it allowed us to build it very tailored to our business. So works really well for us, and we've got all the records and everything in the background as well. And exciting times ahead. So as you can see there, we do plumbing, data and TV, appliance repairs, electrical, carpentry, drainage, air conditioning, security, CCTV, solar, hot water, and we service all of the Brisbane area. So Logan, Ipswich, all of the Bayside, and go out to as far as we can towards Toowoomba. And we've added the Sunshine Coast recently and the Gold Coast. So yeah, we have a lot of training sessions, which I'll talk a little bit more about now. One of our businesses as well is Australian Sports Lighting Solutions. We still do some of this work. That was one of our more recent, larger jobs, which was the Sunshine Coast Stadium. And we actually finished that job in February 2020. And pretty much everything closed down after that. So if you guys remember, there was the NRL bubble, and that actual stadium was used for a lot of the other clubs from down south in Canberra and all over the place that come and trained there. So so it's sat basically dormant for 5 months, except for that training stuff there. So with a job like that, there's a lot of risks and a lot of compliance, a lot of things that electricians wouldn't normally think about. Footings, foundations. There's cranes. We've got QBCC and licensing for that as well. Winching the poles together. There's lots of risks for that. And I was there on the day we actually built the head frames on the ground and wired them on the ground, and then we stood the pole and then bolted the lights to the top of it. So getting all of that to fit and get the cable down the hole was a bit of a challenge. So we don't do a lot of that sort of stuff now. We're a fairly risk-adverse business, and there's a lot of players in that market as well. Pretty cool project though, that one was. We enjoyed that one. So about compliance, being a $50 million business means that we have smart people in a lot of places, and I'm fortunate to have someone that can look after a lot of the things that I'm not an expert at, like tax laws and things like that. We've got accountants that work for us, all the QBCC stuff. It's mainly with the plumbing. So, we got the advantage there. So what I'll talk about is what I know about and our business. And what I'm hoping to do this morning is to give you guys just a little bit of value and maybe take on some of the stuff that we do. There's some big players in the room here, and what we do is small in comparison, but we do a lot of jobs, 30,000 jobs a year across the business in all the different areas that we have. So there was a training session at the Glen Hotel one morning. Alrighty, so we do fortnightly training, and that's about our stuff as well as everything else that's in the industry. We like to get the guys together once a month because being in domestic, you work by yourself a lot. You don't get to see the other guys very much. You see the apprentices. You might work on a job together every now and then. But to get the feeling of culture and inclusion, we have a monthly toolbox talk, and that's we have it at a local footy club because we can't fit in our office, and we get guest speakers from all around the place. Workplace health and safety, electrical safety office, people that provide our equipment as well. They can be very knowledgeable, and sometimes it's not because they're pushing their product and that, but they're also very knowledgeable about the rest of the industry. And the way that I see it is if you can train your people on stuff that even if it's not stuff that you do, it can help with retention with people, and it is a problem if you just train someone up nicely and then they've got that carrot that's dangling and they want to go and run somewhere else. So we do quarterly toolbox meetings, and we pick 4 or so different topics for the year. 6 monthly training, and what we do, that picture at the Glen Hotel before, is we'll get in a motivational type of speaker, and that's more about the person and about what they can learn outside of their trade and about them, and to be able to improve themselves in general. We do, being a trade business, we do a lot of training around that, so we just give those guys that We also do our switchboard school, as we call it, which is we get the boys in. It's a 2-hour session. We get them in after work. We started at 4:30, and then we put them through the test board, which is basically what the guys need to do for capstone. It's a written assessment as well as they do the test board, and we do it in groups of 6 or 8, so it's not too many in the room. If you're trying to do that with a group of 20 guys, it's too hard to control. So we keep it small, and we just do more of it. So the all up, it's like 50 hours that we put into the guys. So on the day-to-day sort of stuff that we do, myself as QTP in the business, I've got another QTP, Deanie's down there this morning as well, and we like to look at everything. We can't see everything, and it is an auditing fashion that we do this in, but anything that we're going to put in a form to Energex, all the solars and everything that we do, we want to see that stuff as well. Again, with a business of our size, we've got an onboard safety guy, and we have a consultant as well that we use just to make sure that we're doing everything right. A fellow that's been in the industry for a long time, ex-Energex, 40 years in that field. So he also brings a lot of the knowledge that we don't have as a domestic contractor, and talks about the entity and the distribution side more, which really gives the guys a good understanding about that. So we do the monthly desktop audits, which we take a lot of photos of our jobs in our system, and we look through that. And that can be, did you consider that material in the ceiling is asbestos? Through to the new stuff where everything gets turned off when you go on the roof. Just making sure that the guys are following our process, both on the electrical compliance and our workflow. We get out there in the field as well, and we don't do that. We sort of do that in a surprise way, where we'll just turn up at the job. The boys are there working away, walk on site, make sure that they sign you onto the risk assessment while you're there, and we just take the time and we go through all the things. We get a checklist, and we make sure that they're locking out properly and following our procedures all the way through. We also do a vehicle check and make sure that the van's in pretty good condition, their ladders are tied on well, and that sort of stuff, just as a reminder that we are driving those vehicles all around town, and it does represent us. It's our mobile billboards, and we don't want to lose a ladder on the M1. So the PPE management, we get an external in to do that. Mobile Test and Cal, I think, is really the only guys out there that are doing it. We do all of our gloves and mats and pole sticks. We choose to do that every 6 months. I don't want to take the risk with that. I don't want to find out that someone's got a shock and there's a hole in someone's glove. It's nothing that I want to do. So, and we have our own safety committee within the business. All the different stakeholders in the business, in the different departments. There's people that sit in air conditioning and in plumbing, the owners of the business, a field representative, and we have a safety committee, and we run through any of the incidents and stuff that have happened throughout the month, the quarter, and then we work on corrective actions and permanent corrective actions, and there might be something that we just stop doing, which is always on the cards. All right, so competency grading with our apprentices is something that, this is different for every business, and, what we do may not suit everyone's business, but we need to do what works for us. So something that we've brought in just recently is the apprentice handbook. Now, what's in there is it's about what we expect as a business from the apprentice, and also what they're meant to do as an apprentice. And we don't have a lot of apprentices. We have a mix of electrical group apprentices, and we have a mix of our own that directly work for us. And we treat all of our apprentices as if they are employees, whether they're an electrical group, first year, first week, we give them all the same. The other thing down there is something we've implemented is just a tag that the apprentices wear, and what's on there is their year level. If they go and work with a guy that they haven't seen or worked with before, it's known then. And what we've done on the back of it is we put a QR code so it's easy for the guys to get to our tracker, where the guys do their e-profiling, but we have our own tracker. I'll call it felon profiling. Sounds a bit weird. But what they do is it's per job. And it's not a big thing. It's just about what they actually do per job. Simple job number for us, and then it's help the electrician install smoke alarms, or it could be we roughed in an extension, or it could be we did some underground mains, and just to that level of detail, and it's per job. And all of these great systems, we need to monitor it to make sure that it's getting done. So, and we do. I think it's just Microsoft Forms, isn't it, Dean? Yeah. Well, I like to keep things simple. I'm old school, and keep it simple. We have mentoring meetings with the apprentices. We do that about every 6 months. We get feedback from the guys out there. But something that we've brought in too is just a recognition for an apprentice. At our monthly toolbox talks, we ask all the guys out there, and they'll put a name forward, and we give them, get them up in front of everyone, say well done, and give them a voucher for a cup of coffee down the road. And hopefully they don't waste too much time down there. We've brought in a fourth-year lead apprentice. So what that's about is that sometimes an apprentice, young first year, they've just started with the business, they're all a bit big and scary. They may not want to say something to their tradesman. They may not want to talk to the supervisor. They may not want to talk to the team leader. They don't want to talk to me. But what's about is our fourth-year apprentice, and we swap it out as they get into their later parts of their fourth year. They become, like we call a lead apprentice, and that's someone for the other younger apprentices to talk to. And they can talk about different things, and it might be that burning thing that they don't know who to ask, and I'd rather have them someone to ask, and then us have some sort of an incident where they haven't been sure. So that's something that we've brought in. The guys have their own, the apprentices have their own do not operate lockout tag that gets put on the padlock with the tradesman's tag as well, so that they've got a buy-in in the risk assessment, and they've got a buy-in in the lockout procedure for the work. So our onboarding process to the business, something I've learned is because someone's an electrician, they've got an electrical license, it doesn't mean that they suit your business, because everyone does different things, and even in the domestic space, there's people that do it a lot differently to what we do. So we've invested in our 10-day onboarding. We have a classroom type training, which is 4 or 5 days doing that. It depends on how well that they pick things up. We want them to learn it and know it. It's about our systems and processes, and it's also about being able to perform the work to a level. I think it's meeting the expectation. When you go to a new employer, you don't know what the expectation is. when I interview people, I ask them about what sort of testing they do. Do you know what the trailing lead's for? Do you have a fluke meter? Do you have a Keiretsu? And sometimes they, more often than I'd like, they don't really know what a trailing lead's for. So all we can do as electricians, and I'm a proud electrician, is to try and help those guys. It's like, the boss didn't provide one, I wasn't sure. So we give them to them and we test them and make sure that they actually use it with our photos and stuff. We give them that classroom training, then we put them out on the road with someone else. They do a sit beside, we call it a lot of ride along, and they actually see the stuff that they've learnt in the classroom and they sit beside them. We do practical assessments, AS3000 sort of stuff. We have a board that they look at and they write me a list of faults, and it gives me an understanding of where they're at with what they understand about the domestic work. And then standards, and we do a one for the supply authority, which that's just changed, so we're going to change what we do there. So industry challenges, look, solar's the buzz at the moment, and it's definitely dominating our business. And it's also with what people want as well. They may not want the smoke alarms that they probably need, but they're interested in getting the battery because it's what the buzz is at the moment. So, we see that every time there's this sort of thing, evolving technologies, generation storage, vehicle charging, look, what a great space, and there's so much smart technology coming in there. And, being able to keep up with that technology, the apprentices being involved with it as well, where, when it's not just main switchboard and some PowerPoints now, we've got energy generation systems within our homes, and different challenges and risks around all of that as well. And inferior equipment entering the market is always a concern as well. We do have a lot of checks and balances, and we're very fortunate in Australia to have a lot of that stuff, and particularly in Queensland. But we don't know some of this stuff until down the track a little bit further. So success stories for us, we've always got a willingness to adapt and evolve to different things that happen out there. The upfront pricing for us was a bit of a game changer. So we did this in the inspection, that home safety inspection I told you guys about, and what that meant is that it slowed us down because the guys just aren't straight on the clock when they get there. They do the inspection, which takes up to 45 minutes to look at everything throughout the home, and then talk to the homeowner about it and give them some options to do it. So straight away I needed more guys. So went from, I think it was 12 electricians when I first started there, and now we're at 40 out on the road doing it. About 60 licensed electricians with all of the supervisory staff and team leaders and stuff as well. We always look at different trades. We've tried a few that haven't worked, but those plumbers are really going well. Always looking for something we can do better. There's, that you've got to keep looking at your business, and that's why we like having our consultant coming in on the safety side, where you get caught up in your own stuff. You think it's great. Is it? Isn't it? And it's only sometimes when you have an incident that you really need to look deep into your business and find those things that you just haven't realised that you haven't been covering. So for me, a few takeaways. Train your staff. The worst thing they can do is leave to find new skills. We train things we don't even do. If the guys want to do something on PLCs or starters. It's old school talk, and generate that culture of learning and sharing. Be a bit open. You know, I'm the general manager of the business, but at heart, I'm still an electrician. It came from my family, my brother, my father-in-law, my grandfather. There's a lot of electricians there, so the family barbecues were a lot of trade talk back in the day. So apprentices, mentoring, competency grading. We bring our apprentices in and we get them to do, it's basically a practical test. The first years we want to make sure that they can screw a mounting block on right and wire up some switches and things like that, put a bit of conduit on the wall. As it goes further on throughout the years, we make it a little bit more complicated. But my guys, my apprentices, work one-on-one with the tradesmen every day. Constant supervision. It seems to be a theme this morning with supervision, and it's key. They get a good apprenticeship with us. We don't do the real big stuff like some of you big players in the room, but they get a very broad training with us. E-profiling is not enough, like I said before, and we found that it's something that the guys, they tend to think about it a little bit more. If they've got to fill out this form at every job, scan their QR code, get into the document and fill it out, it makes them think about what they're actually doing and what they've learnt as well. So this is from me.
Thank you, Scott. What a great overview of the practical things that can be done within workplaces, not only to keep young workers safe, but to achieve compliance. And I think you set a great standard in terms of all of those different initiatives that you're undertaking. Not a paid endorsement, but I have had Fallon out to my house. And who would have thought my smoke alarms were too close to the ceiling fans? So there you go. For us now, having critical conversations and creating a culture of speaking up, it's my pleasure to introduce Annalie Blundell, and she's an award-winning author and expert affectionately known as the Professional People Whisperer. Annalie is on a mission to humanise leadership and transform the way we see and connect with each other. Recognised as the L&D Professional of the Year by the Australian Institute of Training and Development, and a Gold Stevie Award winner for Entrepreneur of the Year, Annalie is a sought-after leadership expert, mentor and author. Her work focuses on decoding people and performance dynamics, making the complex job of leading people both accessible and entertaining. Annalie is the author of several books, including When Men Lead Women and Developing Direct Reports, and is a regular media commentator featured across major outlets such as The Australian, Herald Sun, HuffPost and 3AW. Welcome, Annalie.
Critical conversations. The conversations that as professionals we know we need to have. Yet as humans, we'd rather do anything but have. You know the conversations I'm talking about. So I'm talking about those awkward, uncomfortable kinds of conversations that you'd really just rather not be having. Things like raising red flags or risks, or giving some difficult feedback maybe to a direct report, or maybe even a work colleague. Or maybe it's about standing up for something that you don't think is right in the workplace. These are the kinds of conversations I'm talking about. And in this industry, unlike many others, this industry, it really is about the opportunity to save lives with these conversations. And the interesting thing is that as humans, even though we have to have these conversations, we're not typically that great at it. So today we're going to talk about why these conversations can be so difficult from a human perspective, but most importantly, what we can do as leaders in this space to make it easier for the people that work with us and for us to lean into these conversations. Now, I have to say, it is always endlessly interesting to me to see the myriad of ways that us as humans tend to negotiate our way through these conversations. You know, the way we might avoid them, or the ways we might put them off, or have them without having to have them. Actually, it reminds me, I read an article recently about frogs. Stay with me. And the article talked about a new communication system they had discovered in this particular species of frog, and that was when the male frog came and, how do we say this, suggested reproductive relations with the female frog faked her own death. Now, I don't know, but I think that's a little bit extreme, faking your own death. I mean, personally, surely she wanted to go with the headache before escalating to faking her own death. Now, I know as humans, this might be a little extreme for us. However, we do have other interesting ways of getting around these conversations. I've seen people in the workplace, no kidding, with this kind of strategy. You know, I'm not going to say it to your face, but I'm going to leave a nice little trail of breadcrumbs for you to let you know what I'm thinking. Or maybe we've got people in the workplace who have a little bit more gumption. They're happy to have the workplace conversation. Annalie, I'm going to give it to them straight between the eyes. I'm just going to tell them like it is. Not very skilled at it, but happy to have that conversation. Maybe they're more likely to write something like this. Dear sir, bye-bye, I'm out of here. And of course, if you've got people who are that direct and that straight between the eyes, you might need one of these, a DCA. I don't know if anyone's heard of a DCA, designated crying area. But you only get 15 minutes. You can't, we've got a job to do, people. We've got work to be done. But all jokes aside, having critical conversations can make or break your organisation, and it certainly impacts the safety culture. For almost 20 years, I've been helping people get heard at work. So I focus on working with leaders and their teams and their organisations to build cultures of conversations that help people feel seen, heard, and valued. And there is no greater way to create that level of conversational culture than by investing in the ability to have these critical conversations. And in all the time I've been doing this work, I can tell you right now, it does not matter what industry you're in. It does not matter what level of seniority you have reached. At some level, most humans struggle with having these difficult conversations. Except for Greg, not his real name. Greg was a client of mine, an executive coaching client of mine, and we'd been doing some work together for a number of months. And it was clear to me that he was one of those rare breeds that seemed to have great skill when it came to having these difficult conversations. He would just go straight into them. He didn't avoid them. He didn't put them off. He was clear, concise, and kind. But not only that, the people around him, the people in his team, they were willing to give him feedback. They were willing to wrestle with the ideas and critique things that he was offering, which was quite unusual. And I remember actually remarking on this, Greg, you seem to be really good at these conversations. You know, this is a really big deal. Congratulations. And he said, well, confession, I didn't start my career like this. I wasn't always great at having these conversations. You know, I made mistakes as I was making my way through the ranks. But it wasn't until a very pivotal moment that I really understood the importance of these conversations. I work in the transport industry, and I had to attend the funeral of a team member, someone in my department. Now, whilst I wasn't there on the day, I take responsibility for the safety culture, for the conversations that were being had and not being had when that incident occurred. and I swore never again to let any conversation go unsaid. These are too important. And to me, it became really clear that speaking up is not a nice to have, it's a must have. And the onus of building that kind of culture is on me as the leader. I am setting the conversational tone in this workplace. And what I notice that happens is that as leaders in organisations, when it comes to particularly things like safety conversations and escalation processes and the way we need to do things around here, like we've had a lot of conversation already around apprentices and training apprentices and inducting people in and safety regulations and legalities. So we know, losing microphone, excuse me, it's slipping off my head. So we know that as leaders in the... it's really slipping off. Excuse me, just a moment. It's just about to pop off my head. Just chat amongst yourself for like 30 seconds. This is highly unprofessional. This is called seeing what happens in the green room behind... There we go. I think I've got it. Yep. Just fell off the ear, literally just slid off the back of my neck. Okay, so what I notice is that when we're having these conversations, as leaders, we're talking about policies and practices. We're very clear on what is required to happen in these moments. But the gap that I see is that we are prioritising policies over practices. And what I mean by that is it's very easy to get away with thinking that our job is done if we have the procedures in place. We have the training, we have the policies, we know what we're supposed to do here. We talk about it all the time, Annalie. Everybody knows about it. Knowing about it and doing it is not the same thing. So the danger here is that we're prioritising policies over practices. And the reason this is really important is because it's not enough for people to know what they're supposed to do. Human behaviour will always win out. And when it comes to critical conversations, we are wired to do anything but. We are wired to maintain peace, to maintain harmony. It is what kept us alive throughout millennia. So we know at the basis part of our brain that it is a risk to go against the group. It is a risk to go against somebody else and potentially ruffle feathers. And so as humans, we will do anything to typically, like obviously we have the conversations we need to have, but most of us don't want to necessarily. So there was some research reported in an organisation called Bravely, where they showed that up to 70% of people were avoiding having a difficult conversation. Having done this work for the amount of time I have, I can say that's probably a conservative, if not spot-on, assessment. And when I think about this fact that we are wired to avoid these conversations, because inherently we understand that if we go against the tribe, we go against the group, we say something that might exclude us from what's going on in our tribe, that we are in psychological danger if we do that. I had a look at some really interesting research by Harvard Business Review recently. They showed that out of the top 20 most vulnerable workplace behaviours you could do, top 20 most vulnerable workplace behaviours, the top 6 all had to do with having critical conversations. So not only are we wired as humans to agree, to be approachable, to be affable, to belong, but we are also, when it comes to work, very clear about the things that are putting us at risk of exposure, of being psychologically unsafe, to use a current term. So the top 6 workplace behaviours. Number 1, giving an incorrect answer. We don't want to look silly. Think about apprentices. Think about people who are new. Think about people who are contracting into your business who don't know the way of the world right now. So giving an incorrect answer, making a mistake, expressing emotions. We are in an industry that is predominantly dominated by men. If I just do a quick calculation based on who's in the room and my assumptions, I'm pretty sure I'm right, which means we're also looking at a different way of dealing with emotions in the workplace. So it is very difficult to express emotions in the workplace without feeling on the outer. Expressing disagreement, again, what if it's your boss? What if it's a peer who's been around for 40 years? You don't want to be seen to be the person who is going against that particular person. Pointing out mistakes of other people, we do not want to shame or blame. It very much goes against the Australian culture. And of course, just simply challenging the way things are done. What if that's the way we've always done it? Yeah, I know that's what it says in the manual, Annalie, but we've always done it this way. Don't worry, you'll get a hang of things pretty soon. Don't worry, you'll get it. They're the kinds of conversations we need to be really vigilant about. But I want to make this personal. Let's go personal for just a minute. I want you to think back, way back for some of you, not so much for some of you. I want you to think back to when you were a new person in the work environment. Maybe it was your first leadership role. Maybe it was your first supervisory or team leader role. I want you to think about the kinds of conversations that you felt were most difficult in that role. These are the kinds of conversations. Was it giving difficult feedback to perhaps a direct report, someone in your team, about poor performance? Maybe it was a colleague not pulling their weight, heaven forbid. Maybe it was about a client or an external partner wanting more, scope creep, pushing you, pressuring you to do things. Maybe it was your boss, or maybe it was all of the above. In 30 seconds, turn to the person next to you. As a young person in your career, which of these conversations did you struggle with the most? Go. All right. And if you're playing along at home, of course, you can pop your answers in the chat box if there is one, and you can be involved in these conversations too. So I'm curious, remember, we're going way back when you were early on in your career, who struggled with at least number 4? Hands up. Give me a show of hands. At least number 4. So this is your boss. This is people more senior to you. Yeah. Did anyone have all of the above? Out of curiosity? Right, yeah. So remember, you were young, you were learning the ropes, you were figuring out how things work around here, you were paying attention to how other people were doing things, yeah? The reason I want to take you back to then is because your level of seniority your level of power and status in the organisation has a huge impact on your voice and whether you feel confident enough or not to speak up. High status stifles speech. So we can work overtime to have all the right policies and procedures and guidelines and regulations and handbooks and all those things that we must have. But if we don't have the daily practices that support the living, breathing enactment of those policies, we will never have the kind of conversations we need to be having. And one of the hardest things to do is to be a junior person in the organisation and speak up towards someone of higher status than you. Think about it when you were new. Think about it when you were younger. This is what's going on right now with the people in the workplaces who are our apprentices, who are perhaps in a minority group in the workforce. Maybe we've got a gender split, maybe we've got people with English as a second language. Anywhere where you feel less than somebody else in terms of that power or rank or social status. If you feel that, it will be stifling voice. And what this means is, as I said, policies are not enough. It has to be about the daily practices. And we know that we have to get this stuff right. Not only, of course, are we saving lives, potentially. We are definitely saving lives, potentially, with these kinds of conversations. But there is an economic impact, my friends, and I'm sure you know this. The more we can create cultures where people feel safe enough to speak up, to speak out, to speak against, the more we have healthy and fit and fighting people in our workplaces doing the right things. And of course, that is good for the economy. The Master Electricians Association on their website reported these figures from last year. They suggested that if work-related injuries and illnesses were eliminated, Australia's economy could grow by, a whopping $28.6 billion. But only if we can get these conversations right. And I think we can. So today I want to leave you with 3 hot tips. And I'm talking to you as industry leaders. This is not a conversation about how to have a difficult conversation. You can look at that stuff online. There's lots of information. ChatGTP can help you with that right now. But what I'm most interested in as leaders in this industry, what is your role? What is our responsibility in creating a kind of culture that makes it easy for people to speak up? Because remember, low status, high status, power differential, very hard to speak up. This is why Scott said that in his company Felon, they have the level 4, the year 4 lead apprentices, thank you, because the power differential between first year apprentices and Scott is way too high, too intimidating, too much of an ask. So we have to lower that status, lower the fear, increase the safety, increase the voice. That's what we're talking about today. Are you excited? I'm excited. All right, number 1. My first suggestion is share stories. I want you to talk about your experiences in your career so far. What was it like when it was your first day on site? What was it like that day you didn't say something, but your gut told you that you should have said something? What happened? What didn't happen? And what wisdom and advice do you want to share with these people? When we're doing this, when we're talking about our stories and our lived experiences, we're normalizing the very human, very regular presence of fear, of doubt, of anxiety or concern. Should I say something? What's going to happen if I say something? Am I at risk if I say something? So we want to normalize that this is just a human experience, and we want to hear some stories of other people that we revere and respect who have already been through this. It models that vulnerability that we talked about as well. And of course, it goes a long way to closing the gap between between policy and practice. Because policy is what we should do, practice is what we actually do. And the more you can tell stories that paint a picture that say, actually, what we say we should do is what we are doing, the more you're closing that gap. And this is what we want to do. We talked about this also with the training organisations. We're trying to build the cultures of safety and conversation. Number 2, we want to support the stretch. If someone comes to you and says, I don't feel safe on my work site right now. I've raised my concern with the 4th-year apprentice. I've raised my concern with other colleagues, with my on-site supervisor. Nothing seems to be happening, and I'm starting to get more and more worried. And finally, they come to you. What you say next has everything to do with whether they ever come to you again. You know that, right? Your response is either going to support their safety or squash it altogether. I kind of think of it like for the parents in the room, or anyone who's ever had a parent, this scenario might be familiar to you. So maybe you're in the lounge room and you hear a loud crash in one of the other rooms and something has broken. And in comes your little child, all looking contrite and embarrassed. I'm so sorry, Mum, Dad. I broke the vase. It was a soccer ball. I know I'm supposed to not have it inside. I'm so sorry. And of course, you know that what you say next determines whether or not your kid will ever own up to breaking that vase, right? Now, of course, I'm sure some of you want to have a reaction. What's the kind of reaction you want to have? What do you want to say when the kid's been playing? I told you so. There it is. I told you so. How many times have I told you? How many times do we have to have this conversation? Yeah, you're so this, you're so that. Of course, we're humans. We want to rail a little bit. But hopefully that kid has caught us on our best day. And on our best day, we know that is only going to mean we are never going to hear the truth from this kid ever again. And the same thing happens in our conversational cultures. When people take the risk, remember, top 6 most vulnerable things you can do in the workplace is all about speaking up. If someone speaks up, we need to reinforce that they have done the right thing, so they are likely to do it again. So we thank them. We reinforce the importance of what they've just done, and we call out the courage that they have demonstrated in doing so. That is going to ensure that it happens again. And number 3, be a role model. Be the kind of leader who is approachable with these conversations. Be the kind of leader that first-year apprentice doesn't look at and go, oh, I could never speak to that person. We want to make them know that all conversations have a place in this organisation. Level agnostic. When it comes to safety, position does not matter. Lives matter way more. So ask for feedback, invite pushback, get people to challenge you, model what it takes to have constructive and challenging conversations. The Neuro Leadership Institute, in a paper they wrote about the neuroscience of speaking up, shared that people are 26% more likely to speak up if they feel invited to do so and appreciated when they've done so. We have to demonstrate to people that we are serious when we say we want you to say something. And we demonstrate that by what we do. It is not what you dictate, but what you demonstrate that counts. As leaders, we need to be the kinds of people who create those conversations. If we want to spark speech, if we want to amplify impact and power up productivity. Did you see what I did? Did anyone catch the electrical references? Anyway, I'll just give you, I worked really hard on those electrical references for this industry. Anyway, if we want to be the kind of leaders that creates this kind of conversation, we need to make sure that we are showing up, living and breathing these conversations for ourselves. As Susan Scott, the author of Fierce Conversations, once said, no single conversation is guaranteed to change the trajectory of a life, a marriage, a career. but any single conversation can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annalie. I loved that call out that knowing about it and doing it are two different things. And for everyone online and everyone in the room, you now know how to encourage those critical conversations. So thank you again for doing that. As I mentioned at the beginning of the event, Keith, the Commissioner of Electrical Safety, has been a member of the Electrical Safety Board and Electrical Licensing Committee since 2011, and I'd love Keith to come back up to the stage to talk to you about your commitment to safety.
Thanks, Annalie. That was an awesome presentation, and Donna and Scott. I think we got a fair bit out of what they had to say. But whilst we've been here having a bit of a yak and you getting information, we want to swap something around a bit now. On your tables, hopefully there might be a notepad and pen, but if not, you're going to get a survey soon. So for just a couple of minutes, I want you to have a think about if you could provide any information through the Electrical Safety Office, the OIR, anything that we need to do, change or improve with respect to community education activities, what industry engagements you'd like to see or think we can do better or more advanced, any current issues you believe that we need to be addressed that's not being addressed. And obviously when Rob talks about the role of the Electrical Safety Office, I guess, as an outsider, you think they're just out there issuing infringement notices and improvement notices, and that's just only one small aspect the ESO does. They do a whole range of activities, and in fact it's the crew of about 95 people. They do a lot for a small unit, which should be commended. And what also would you do to promote electrical safety in your industry? So either amongst your tables, has you got notepads on your tables at all? Is there something there? Just write down a few things. If you don't, we'll so be it. But if you've got any ideas that you think that we need to have as an input to electrical safety in Queensland or improve something, no idea is a silly idea. Might not be that flash, but put them on the table, and we're going to collect them when we leave. So we just spend a couple of minutes doing that. You're off. Let's go. I do my own sound effects.
confusing sometimes to be a girl, girl. It's so confusing sometimes to be a girl, girl. How do you feel being a girl?
Thank you, everyone, for doing that. If you want to just leave those on the table, the team will collect them at the end of the breakfast, so thank you very much. I now would like to close. I would like to thank the speakers for today, Commissioner Attorney General Robert, Keith, Donna, Kenny, Scott and Annalee. I'd like to remind you all that it's not too late to register for other Electrical Safety Fortnight events, including the Electrical Industry Safety Toolbox webinar. If you're in Mackay on the 10th of September, there'll be an Electrical Licensing and Contractor Forum. If you happen to be in Moorumba on the 11th of September, there will be 2 electrical worker and contractor forums. Visit worksafe.qld.gov.au to find out more, or chat to the team at the registration desk today. Rob or Keith, who you've heard from today also. Please keep an eye out for an email that you'll receive from us later today for survey, for feedback on today's event. We really value that feedback and allows us to continue to build on these year after year. And thank you for your time in doing that. Thank you for joining us today. It's great to see the event continue to be so well attended in the room and online. As leaders of the industry, it's fantastic to have your contribution and your thoughts and your continued impact to keeping our safe workers and communities thriving. So thank you very much. Take care, stay safe, all the very best.
Child, it's so confusing.